Chapter 1. Cold dampness seeped from the ground, penetrating deeply into Bill's body. The steel of his rifle drew heat from his hands. Prone on wet leaves saturated with the watery leavings of a harsh winter, he squinted through the naked brush where the odd, stubborn, twisted, brown leaf still clung to a branch. Details of a small clearing solidified in the early blue light of an April dawn. Rivulets of gray smoke from a nearly dead fire rose into the calm morning air. A rough lean-to of poles and a blue tarp sheltered 2 adults. Another huddled beneath rude blankets near the fire. The sleepers had not bothered to post a sentry, and their ragtag appearance suggested this bunch was not likely skilled at fighting. Matt Long and Stevie Hunter, the town constable, had tracked these butchers from Quinn's place where Matt had discovered the bodies. His description of the brutal deaths of Steve and Gail Quinn and their 3 kids cut deeply. Bill knew he looked at cold-blooded murderers undeserving of mercy. The innocence of the sleeping forms did not reduce Bill's anger, but he did not want to feel any emotion. This job required deliberate action, and he dared not risk clouding it with hatred. To his left, George Harvey, Stevie Hunter and Matt Long lay on the ground, clutching their rifles. Bob Spencer and Bill Simpson knelt to his right, alert, weapons ready. Beyond them were the 2 Smith brothers and Willard Dick. Each group of 3 would take 1 suspect. Bill's group targeted the man by the fire. Bill hoped they would subdue them quickly with no injuries. Anything serious might exceed the community's limited medical capabilities. An injury beyond a cut or scrape meant a painful recovery and probably disability. The community could not afford the loss of workers or the burden of supporting non-productive mouths. These realities had caused a heated debate last night. Some advocated killing these murderers outright. The lust for vigilantism almost defeated those, including Bill, who supported the rule of law. Matt tapped his shoulder. Bill passed the signal down the line. As one, the 9 men rose and rushed their targets. Surprise would make for an easier job. "Oh," Bill gasped as a sapling struck his face. "Shoo," Bob Spencer snarled. Someone's foot broke a dead twig, and the loud report stirred the sleepers. The man by the fire rolled onto his right shoulder, just as the trio of deputies reached him. Spencer's boot heel struck the other shoulder, snapping the man back to his face-down position. The man expelled a gasp as Simpson slammed a hardwood board across his legs and dropped hard on his knees, pinning the legs. Spencer's knees dropped onto the target's head and neck. Bill shouldered his rifle and held open handcuffs ready. Once they had immobilized the man, Bill tore the ragged blanket away, snapped the cuffs firmly onto one wrist and then yanked the arm behind. The man had some fight left and Bill struggled briefly to bring the other wrist into the clasp, but soon they had their target bound and helpless with firm coils of rope around his ankles. "You bastards," the victim cried, muffled through the rotting leaf litter covering his mouth. Screams and curses from the tent drowned out his protest. "Get off me," they had dragged the woman out and slammed her harshly to the ground. She kicked harmlessly before they tightened the rope. "Oh," Willard cried as the second man's fist struck his stomach. His heavier body had resisted and given him time for one good swing. One of the Smith boys drove his rifle but onto the man's head. He went limp, and moaned. "I hope you didn't kill him," Stevie controlled his anger as he snapped cuffs onto the now helpless man. The Smiths found violence too easy. "You bastards," the woman screamed, her shrill cries mingled with the loud curses of the prisoner by the fire and the moans of Smith's victim. "How ya doing, Will?" Bill placed his hand on the deputy's shoulder. "I'll be okay. The damn jerk got me good. I could use a cup of Maud's tea," Willard gasped as he sat in damp leaves, his back against a tree. "Take a minute, we all need a break. I was freezing to the ground. I'll stir up this fire until we're ready to go. Anyone want a cigarette?" "They got some tailor-made," Bob Spencer sang out. "Leave my stuff alone," the woman shrilled. "Shut up, bitch. You're lucky you didn't get shot and burned right here like this cig." Spencer flicked ash into the woman's face, emphasized by a stiff nudge from his boot. She fell silent. While the posse warmed around the fire, Stevie Hunter, a former Ontario provincial police officer, searched through the rude camp and found the knives that must have been the murder weapons. He wrapped evidence in an old blanket. Some things looked like loot from the Quinn house. Old watches, coins, and other items perhaps came from elsewhere. He kept a meticulous list of each item, and with photographs not an option, marked where he had found it on a rough drawing of the camp. Stevie knew if they followed anything resembling the old judicial process, there would be a lengthy examination of his evidence in court. He would hold everything pending a trial, if they could get a judge and crown attorney from the province, although small communities could appoint judges and prosecutors if needed. To complicate it all, Centerville did not have any legal standing. These were the first local murders since the initial flurry of murder-suicides and had created a mess to sort out. Either way, Stevie reflected, it's becoming a big pain in the ass. The morning had completely broken. The posse adjusted the prisoners' foot bonds to allow a halting gait. Bound to a rope line and spaced about 10 feet apart, each culprit had a backpack carrying Stevie's valuable evidence, food, and some clothing. These wretches are destitute, Bill thought, but that's no excuse. Everyone's suffering these days. They began the hard climb to the concession road, lost in their thoughts. 2 of the posse were ex-police, 2 others had helped law enforcement before. It was the first time for Bill, and he hoped it would be his last. Pretty rough, eh? Stevie seemed to read his mind. Yeah, Bill gasped as he cleared a fallen log. I hope I never have to do this again. Things are getting worse, Stevie continued. We've been lucky up here so far. Guess we had little worth taking until now. People are getting desperate. I heard it's bad down the Grand around Waterloo, George spat. A bunch of hungry folks thought they could take it all, wanted more than the Black Hats just help in them. It seems the Black Hats had some fight though. A couple died each way last fall. Them Amish ended up with new field hands, and I hear bigger congregations at the Friday meetings. Talk to them Koch folks that trade the veggies. Daddy Dave is a nice guy, likes to talk. George ran out of breath, but he had repeated what the rumor mill had embellished. Bill often talked with Dave Koch, who told the actual story. The Mennonites had not fought but fed the town folk and allowed the desperate refugees to live in abandoned houses in the old commuter village of Dorking. They worked for the Mennonites in return for housing and food. The people remaining in Centerville were not as generous as the Mennonites. Koch's stories were part of the reason the town had put more focus on security. These murders drove it home. Desperate people wandered further than ever. The worst thing about this, it'll bring attention to us from the government folks. Stevie puffed on his 3rd cigarette, his opinion rooted in his bitterness after the police force fired him. I wish I had a pipe of cherry blend. Bill had not found good tobacco for a year. Shaved dandelion root just doesn't cut it. Stevie patted him on the shoulder and blew his smoke the other way. We should take care of things ourselves and keep the Toronto Titians out of it. Bob Spencer supported the vigilante faction. The Smith brothers murmured in support. We'll take it to council. Bill Simpson sat on the council. We got to decide quick, too much to do to waste our time on this crud. Bill looked closely at everyone. They had become tired and depressed. The scared prisoners listened to the chatter. Their hobbled feet stumbled on rough ground. We didn't do nothing, the female shrilled. Yeah, we found them already dead, the older man cried in defiance, still warm, and we heard a truck out on the road. Shut up, you bastards, the older Smith shouted, you lying scum. He slapped the prisoner, making his lip bleed. Cut that out, Stevie yelled. Whatever they did, we will not knock him around. He got what he deserved. Spencer always supported the Smiths. You folk best shut up. Stevie ignored Spencer and put on his cop look. I'll take your statements at the lockup. With the warming sun dappling through the budding trees, Bill knew it would be a beautiful day. That would be a treat in this cold, damp April, but almost mocking after the terrible crime leading to this morning's work. The force and speed Smith had dealt with the prisoner upset Bill. The violence became another thing to make him uneasy. Perhaps things are getting worse, Bill thought. People are becoming less forgiving. The village had split into two camps. One seemed willing to use intimidation and force to achieve things. This bunch, led by Roger Smith, the father of the two boys in the posse, wanted to take over the town. That made Bill and his wife, Sharon, uneasy. Sharon and I need to talk this out. Bill's thoughts drifted to the events that had led his world to this. He remembered the last day of the way it was.